Oh, hi everybody. How you doing? It's Ezra Levant here. It's 12 noon Eastern Time on July 10th, and as you may know, every day at 12 noon, I do a live stream. I do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. My friends Sheila Gunner-Reid and David Menzies do it Tuesdays and Thursdays. We call it a live stream because that's sort of obvious, but YouTube calls it a super chat. It means that your comments in the live stream, you can make them super by chipping in a few dollars. That puts your comment in a bright highlighted color, which means everyone will see them, and that everyone includes me. I have my laptop right here on the table, so I see it out of the corner of my eye. And we make a point of reading every super chat out loud, and we try to have some sort of response to it, because YouTube actually gives us 70% of the dough. And as you know, YouTube demonetizes conservative websites, including ours. We're down about 80% from where we were before the great demonetization, so these super chats help fill the void. So that's what we do. We've had such a busy week, it's unbelievable. And here in the office today, we have some of our talent from a far field. Sheila Gunner-Reid is actually in the house today. That's fun to see her. And also a new prospective talent that we're meeting in person. Hopefully we'll have some exciting news to share with you soon. We've got a lot of things cooking. I mean, during the pandemic, we didn't go away. In fact, I think we did a lot of stuff. My friend David Menzies was very busy every day covering the pandemic from a different point of view. At first, he went to the Toronto airport every week to document all the flights coming in from China, no screening whatsoever. That was quite excellent journalism. Lately, he's been covering Antifa protests and sit-ins across the country trying to tear down statues. He's done a great job of that. And of course, he had the great FightTheFines.com campaign for people who were given illegal fines by officious meddlers, bylaw officers, even police in some cases, going too far, giving $800, $900, $1,100 fines for going to the playground or something during the pandemic. So we are fighting those fines. We have at least 10 cases that we published so far, and I see a new wave of cases coming now that people don't want to wear the mask. And by the way, the pandemic's pretty much done. I think I would have supported mask wearing en masse at the height of the crisis. March, when we didn't know much about it. April, when the crisis peaked. But we're in July already. The bulk of the cases were 90 days ago. In some parts of Canada, there hasn't been a new case in a week. Last I checked, Manitoba hadn't had a new case in 6 days. So I think the mask authoritarianism, sketchy at the best of times, but the pandemic's over, folks. So we've been busy. Of course, my new book, as you know, China Virus, is out, and it's done very well. Can you grab me the Amazon rankings? I think it's still in the top 10. I mean, it's tough to keep in the top 10 continuously because it's that stat is refreshed every few hours. So if you have a bunch of people buying the book, it moves up, and then later on in the day it can move down and back and forth. But I think it's been doing okay. How's it looking there? It's number 6 this week, which is pretty solid. Look at that, 420, and what's that? They're number 6, both. What's the paperback edition? Can you scroll down a little bit there? There's a ranking, yeah, a little further. There you go. So, oh, there it is. So it's number 5 in books. Click on the top 100. I want to see what's ahead of me. Yeah, the anti-Trump stuff. Canadians just can't get enough of bashing Trump. You would think this country would care about something maybe Canadian, but no. So number 1 book, anti-Trump. Number 2 book, anti-Trump. Number 3 book, that looks like a new one. What's that called? Violent Bent Backwards Over the Grass. Don't know what that is. Untamed. Don't know what that is. And then number 5, well, bonjour, there you have it. 421 ratings. Click on that again. The reason I'm interested in that is, as you know, a bunch of left-wing trolls hopped on the site and gave a bunch of 1-star reviews without even reading the book. Like that one right there. Actually, scroll back up. You see that was written on July 1st. You see that there? The book was not yet out. And this person says, this book is pure garbage. It makes for great burning material. Yes, sister, the book wasn't out yet. Anyways, I'm glad that the book has a strong, lots of, oh, you see underneath them where it says verified purchase in sort of dark orange there. So that's if you actually bought the book. You'll notice that the 5-star reviews were by people who actually bought it and presumably read it. but the hate reviews are from people who didn't even buy it. Now, you might think I'm being oversensitive to if people like the book or not. I mean, obviously any author has some emotional investment in their work, but mainly I just want to point out how sneaky the critics of the book are, bashing it and recommending against it without having read it. In fact, writing those reviews before the book could even have been read. Okay, so that sort of brings us up to where we are now. I want to tackle two things for sure today. Oh, by the way, before I leave the topic of the book, I like doing book launches, book events, book signings. They've been frustrated lately because, of course, you can't have mass gatherings in the shadow of the pandemic, but slowly jurisdictions across Canada are lifting those rules slowly. And we're tracking the map, and where the pandemic rules are being lifted, we will have book events like the good old days. And we have our first event scheduled. It's going to be July 21st, just outside Edmonton in the community of Sherwood Park. It's from 4:30 to 7:30. Now that sounds like a very long time. Here, let me break it down for you. 4:30 is when the wine and cheese reception starts. And then I think an hour later we sit down for dinner. And we actually have a sit-down dinner. We're booking the whole restaurant. And then I'm going to give a book talk. I'll do a dramatic reading of the book. And everyone who comes gets a copy, and I'll sign them right there. So I think that's a fun evening. Not everyone shares my sense of what's fun. But for those of you who think that having a good meal, getting out of your house and meeting other live humans again, and fellow rebels, getting a copy of the book, I'll sign it for you. You can get all that if you go to rebelnews.com/events. So if you're in Edmonton, for sure come. Obviously Sherwood Park's just across the highway from Edmonton proper. I'd say if you're in northern Alberta, come on up. And it's going to be it's not just like a come in, get a book, go. Like this is an evening. It's a dinner. I've not been to this restaurant before, but I've heard good things. And they're Rebel supporters, obviously, or at least supportive enough to let us be there. They're not deplatforming us. And it'll be great to get back to Alberta. So that's what, just 11 days from now. And we have had some strong ticket sales. We just announced this. How can I even not mention that I will have a very special guest, Sheila Gunn-Reid. She'll be there. So come for the snacks, stay for the book, and say a big hello to Sheila and me, because we've all been cooped up for too long. I'm just looking at the app on my phone here to see how many people have signed up already. We just announced this, I think, like 36 hours ago, and we've got 32 tickets sold, which isn't bad. I think we'll get, we just started telling people about this. I think it's going to be a great event. I think we're going to take up the restaurant, have a nice evening, and I hope to see you there just to get out of the house again and to remember what people are like. And, just, it's like riding a bike, though. I'm sure you never forget how to deal with people again. I see some super chats coming in. Let me look at those. And then I wanted to finish up, but there are two things I want to talk to you about. The first one is, I mentioned Sheila, a video by Sheila about something that happened at the Alberta legislature a couple days ago. And then the second, actually at the same place, when Keean Bexley went to the legislature to do some reporting, what happened to him. So I got a big show for you today. First, let me catch up on some super chats. Pink Phoenix Nails, $1.49. Well, thank you very much. Julian Borges, $2. Mandatory masks are authoritarian. Libertarian first. Taiwan went big on the masks early. And so in my mind, I thought, all of Taiwan, country of 24 million people, right across the Straits of Formosa from China, 23 million people in the country, only 7 people died from the virus. They're doing something right. I think the main thing they do right is a strict entry and exit quarantines. But they got it right, and masks were part of that. They knew they needed masks. They knew the virus was worse than China was letting on. So in January and February, they built all these mask factories. We've done shows on this before. So by the time things got dangerous in March and April, they were making 10 million masks per day per factory. and just for a few pennies each, but you got to do it right, and you got to do it hygienically, and you got to distribute them. The most interesting thing to me about Taiwan is they distributed the masks as if it were a prescription. So you just pop by your drugstore once a week, you get your masks, and the reason they did that is not because they were charging a high price, the opposite. They were just rationing them, so you get like 5 masks a week or whatever, and you couldn't buy them all up and then resell them at a crazy price. So it was a very neat system, and the country was very cohesive. It's not that geographically large a country, and so many folks live in the one city of Taipei. They did a great job. And if someone would have said to me back in March, before we knew all the facts about the virus, hey, let's wear masks when we're near other people, I'd say, okay, that makes sense, especially since we really didn't know what was going on, and we didn't know how high the curve would go. But by April 13th, that's the day pretty much things peaked in Canada, and they've been on a downward trend ever since. So during the crisis, not before, like, the ant and the grasshopper, which one was preparing for the winter, the other was dancing and singing. Well, Taiwan was preparing for the pandemic when they first got news of it, so they built their mask factories. Trudeau was literally partying. He was in Costa Rica for 17 days, and then he went on a big junket to Africa, try and get votes for the UN. By the time he said, maybe we need some masks, we didn't have the mask capacity, so he spent $2 billion with a B on masks. What's a mask cost to make? Like 20 cents even? I think he overpaid by a factor of 100. Like if you said I bought $20 million worth of masks and they're 20 cents each, that's 100 million masks. Yeah, that's a lot of masks. He spent 100 times that. He got ripped off. He's like the goofy, dopey tourist who goes to the bazaar and doesn't know you're supposed to banter and bargain. And the local craftsman said, here's a sucker from the cruise ship. This fine craftsmanship is $200. And you're supposed to say, nah, mate, that's $2. And Trudeau says, okay. So Trudeau paid $2 billion for a bunch of masks. And I think what happened is the masks have only just now arrived 3 months after we needed them. Trudeau spent $2 billion on masks that we could have used 90 days ago. And now he's saying, what do I do with these masks? I got to make people use them because otherwise I'm going to look like the dope who spent $2 billion on like basically a Kleenex for your face. That's my theory on masks. If someone would have said, Ezra, in March, in April, wear masks, you go out in public, go to restaurants, whatever, stores, I'd say, all right. But now we know that the pandemic's over, but now they're bringing in the masks. It's about control. D. Schultz, $5. Keep up the great work. Thank you. I'll do my best. Jolene Stevenson, $5. Trudeau must go. I'm using the phrase Trudeau crime family. Try and stop me. I think they're sort of like the Clintons in a way. I mean, the Clintons, just grifters, just mooching, just taking the dough. I mean, Bill and Hillary both came from, they were not wealthy. In fact, Bill was quite poor, and I think he sort of resolved he would never again be poor. And Hillary is a sociopath in terms of social climbing. They did start fairly low, but Justin Trudeau hasn't worked a day in his life. He's 2 generations separated from the last Trudeau who worked for a living. Pierre Trudeau didn't work for a living either. Justin Trudeau's grandpa, who he never met, Pierre Trudeau's father, was actually a great entrepreneur. He had a chain of gas stations. Imagine how much hard work that is. He was a real hard-working businessman entrepreneur. Was so wealthy, he set up a trust fund. So Pierre never worked a day in his life. He was a Marxist because, of course, you're a millionaire, you can be a Marxist. They're the only people who can afford to be one. And Justin Trudeau grew up in Pierre Trudeau's house. He's 2 generations separated from the last Trudeau who's ever worked. So he's had luxury and other people taking care of the bills his whole life. But still, at least the Clintons grew up, Bill Clinton grew up poor. So he knows you got to hustle, you got to grift. What's Justin Trudeau's excuse for just grifting and pocketing 10 grand here, 50 grand here? And of course, the latest news is that his mom, his brother, and his wife pocketed $300,000 from a charity? that he was steering federal money to. I'll do my show on that tonight. But yeah, Trudeau crime family. I think we got a name for the next book. Let's keep going here. David Anderson, $2 book event in Calgary real soon too, please. David, I got you on that. We're just pinning down exactitudes on the location, the time, the date. You bet I'm coming to Calgary, and hope to also go to Vancouver and Vancouver Island and maybe the Prairies too. By that I mean Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Going to have events here too. We were excited to announce the first one. Get going, so that's coming July 21. Go to China Virus Book. I think there's a link there. Is there a link on ChinaVirusBook.com? And I know if you go to rebelnews.com/events, you can. There's a few ways you can find it. Karen Sawchuk, $20. Not sure, Ezra, but this whole We scandal reminds me of the Jared Nolan scandal. Any thoughts? Well, I got to quickly Google Jared Nolan because it's only so many things I can remember. Sophie Trudeau's cousin alleges wide-ranging. Okay, that's in the Buffalo Chronicle, which I'm always skeptical about. So I'm not going to even go further down that road before I read for myself, because if it's a Buffalo Chronicle, I'm not going to call it a fake news site because that's a disparaging term used by political leftists who want to censor things. But if it's on the Buffalo Chronicle, I regard it as no more authoritative than just someone's Facebook post, which might be interesting, or it could just be something salacious. So I'm going to do more due diligence on that before giving it more oxygen, because we want to be credible. Who do you think is the worst female Prime Minister, Kim Campbell or the current one, Justine Trudeau? Well, you're being very sassy. I would say Kim Campbell was Prime Minister for too brief a time to do any real damage, except for to her own party, thank God. Sorry, that was from Zen Axe, so thank you very much. The Meek Canadian, $20. Hi, Ezra. Any idea why so many people get so angry at the Rebel? I don't see any other media mentioning you that often, yet you are very popular. We take strong opinions that sometimes are contrary to the conventional wisdom. Our motto is telling the other side of the story. And some people don't want to hear the other side of the story. They don't want to know that there is another side of the story, or if they do know there is another side of the story, they want to silence and cancel those who say so. But, let truth and falsehood grapple. If we're so wrong, prove us wrong. If our ideas are so weak, then dispatch them. Those who would censor us, which is too many people these days, in a way are admitting they don't know how to rebut us. And by the way, sometimes a rebellious idea is the correct one. In fact, all progress depends on being able to offend the establishment view. Now, just because something's offensive doesn't mean it's right. But the only way we actually do get progress is by challenging the status quo. That's what we do over here. And that, I think, is an important character trait in a journalist, is to be a skeptic and a little bit of a dissident. That's why. Cindy Reber, $20. I agree, Trudeau's are a crime family. Pierre Elliott Trudeau was a communist. Yeah, absolutely. Proud Boys Edmonton, $5. You ever talked to tech support in India? So have we. The West is the best. Proud Boys Edmonton. Well, thank you for your contribution. All right. I think I've caught up on the super chats. Is that right, Justin? Okay. It's 12:18. I'm done from the book. I'm done the book event. I want to show you a fun video that Sheila made. What I want to do is I want to start with a name. Can you type into Google Martin Schmidt? Just Google it. S-C-H-M-I-D-T. So just let's say you type into Google. You go to Google. Who's Martin Schmidt? Never heard of him before. Who is that guy? And what do you see? Justin is going to type it in right now. And you will see. Well, just show me what I see. Martin Schmidt. Football manager. Okay, type in Martin Schmidt, Alberta. There you go. And look on the right there, Martin Schmidt, Canadian politician. You see that guy? Click on that. Who is that? Yeah, click on that. And on the right-hand side there, so there he is. He's a Canadian politician who was elected in 2015, Alberta general election. You click on the Wikipedia link there. So he's 41 years old, and there he is there. He's got a Master's of Science degree in Environmental Geosciences from University of Tübingen in Germany, and a Bachelor of Science from Queen's. Okay, it's interesting. Now, if I were ever to go into politics, and one day I might, I would probably try and get my name EzraLevant.com. That's just, just thinking ahead. Sorry, it's Marlin. That's my mistake. I called it Martin. What happens if you type in Marlin like the sea creature? I was saying Martin. Forgive me. It's Marlin. What happens? Go to Google. Let's show it on the screen. Open up a screen. And what if you type in, go to the actual bar, the actual URL bar. Yeah, right up at the top. You know what I mean when you type right in the URL? What if you type in marlinschmidt.com? marlinschmidt.com. Like, can you go to the actual, you know what I mean when you see the URL address? Well, I'll tell you how, let me just tell you what happens if you go to marlinschmidt.com. I'm sorry for the long lead up. It goes to a website that we set up yesterday. Because he didn't buy his own URL. So why would we buy marlinschmidt.com? First of all, because I can't believe a politician wouldn't buy his own name.com. Second of all, he said something so appalling that I hope for the rest of time, or at least until he corrects and apologizes, that if someone types in marlinschmidt.com, they are taken to this website, which is what happens. I'm sorry, I dragged that out too much. If you go to marlinschmidt.com, you get this video by my friend Sheila Gunn-Reid. And let's just see what the video is. Pump it up!
Mr. Speaker, people would be interested to know that the author of that letter was one Margaret Thatcher. And before I continue to go on, just let me say that I am no fan of Margaret Thatcher. If nothing else goes right for me in a day, Madam Speaker, I can at least count on enjoying the fact that Margaret Thatcher is still dead. And the only thing that I regret about Margaret Thatcher's death is that it happened probably 30 years too late. But the point is,
the Alberta New Democrat Party likes to brag about being a bunch of feminists. They, like Trudeau, during their 4-year reign of destruction here in Alberta, did their best to boast a woefully inept, albeit gender-equal cabinet. Priorities, right? Perhaps, though, just like with Trudeau, their feminist preening is deflection and projection away from their own sins. Trudeau bragged about his own feminist record and gender parity in cabinet because it was 2015, to cover for his past abuse of power and stature against less powerful women. Trudeau groped a reporter in Creston, BC, remarking that he would not have groped her if he had known she was a national reporter. The Alberta NDP has a real problem with sexism, particularly with their grave dancing on a departed female leader of our Commonwealth ally, the United Kingdom. One of their MLAs, Marlin Schmidt, celebrated the death of Conservative Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, lamenting the fact that she didn't die sooner in a speech in the legislature. Just watch.
Mr. Speaker, people would be interested to know that the author of that letter was one Margaret Thatcher. And before I continue to go on, just let me say that I am no fan of Margaret Thatcher. If nothing else goes right for me in a day, Madam Speaker, I can at least count on enjoying the fact that Margaret Thatcher is still dead. And the only thing that I regret about Margaret Thatcher's death is that it happened probably 30 years too late. But the point is...
What an absolute ghoul, a disgrace, heartless, petty, and grotesque, definitely unbecoming of Alberta's legislature. although not shocking from the party where the leader wears a Che Guevara watch. But Schmidt said this monstrous thing because he knows he can get away with it. He knew there would be convenient silence from the mainstream media and no consequences from his own party, because Schmidt has done this before. The time before, Schmidt wasn't sexist and ghoulish, however, he was pretty darn racist by any measure the left uses. Conservative MLA Prasad Panda was born in India, but he's as Albertan as anyone. But look at how Schmidt referred to Panda just a few short months ago. Here.
And the member from wherever the hell he's from, Minister of Infrastructure.
Do you think for a second a conservative would get away?
You know, it's not a huge story. Marlon Schmidt, I called him Martin Schmidt. That shows how much I'm even paying attention to him. He's a footnote in history. He's an asterisk. He's a rounding error. He's a man of no consequence. He's a man with small shoulders. He's an empty suit. He's a nothing. But he made himself noteworthy only for one thing, and that is being a bit of a jackass. Imagine saying you actually want your opponent to die, and your one regret is they didn't die earlier. You're saying that in the legislative assembly of a province. You're saying that as a representative of a whole neighborhood of, 50,000 people you represent, or whatever the number is in Alberta. You're saying that, and you're taking on the first woman prime minister in the United Kingdom, someone who won election after election, and all you have to say is, I'm glad she's dead, I wish she was dead earlier. You're saying that you actually wish a political enemy would die. Why? How are you even calling yourself a Democrat, which is part of the D in NDP? And was it a coincidence that he said the member of wherever the hell he's from? He said it, you saw it, where the hell he's from India, mate. I got a question for you. Do you think if Marlon Schmidt, I love calling him Martin because it shows how little I even think of him or think about him. If Marlon Schmidt were a conservative and he said about a man of color, wherever the hell you're from, yeah, yuck, where the hell are you from? Or if he said about a woman, yeah, I wish she would just die. I wish she died earlier. Yeah, they'd be canceled by now. They'd be canceled by now. What a disgrace. So anyways, I like to buy websites. It's my hobby, as you know. And so if you go to marlonschmidt.com, it'll forever be connected to Sheila's video. And I just want to tell you that. There's more super chats. I don't know, maybe that's not a big story. And maybe those aren't heinous crimes. Saying, I wish you were dead, wish she was dead. Where the hell are you from? It's not a big story, but I tell you, in recent weeks and months, have we not seen people fired from mighty positions for much less? That's all I'm saying. Super chats, Derek G, could you refer to me any reliable sources for statistics and data? Hard to find with Google biased algorithm. Right now, I need non-debatable data about COVID-19 for arguments purposes. Well, I find that most Western jurisdictions actually have very accurate data. Well, I don't know if they're accurate, but very precise data, and I would imagine they're accurate. Almost every province and even city in Canada has precise data. Now, the one way it's imprecise is that they admit that they count anyone who dies but has the virus in them as a virus death. So if you're crossing the street and get hit by a car, and you take them to the hospital and you die from the car accident, if you had the virus in you, that's considered a COVID death. I'm not making that up. That's a standard reporting practice now. The Toronto Public Health Officer even tweeted that fact. So other than that, and I don't know how you would even get around that fudge factor. In fact, I go to the COVID stats for Toronto, Ontario, Saskatchewan, BC all the time. I find them very interesting, because they confirm that the pandemic is over. Dr. FYE, $5, left field question. Do you think Toronto purposely sends their homeless to other parts of the province? Do you think that happens in other provinces? Well, my experience is that homeless people tend to go towards the larger cities for a variety of reasons. So I don't think Toronto would ship its homeless outside the city. I haven't heard that before. If you have any information to the contrary, feel free to share it with me. All right. We've had a bit of a ramble today, but I appreciate people watching, and I thank you for the support. We mentioned marlinschmidt.com in the Alberta legislature. That's Sheila's turf because she lives nearby. But Cian was up in Edmonton as well, and he went to the legislature to, well, frankly, ask a bunch of questions, including to Marlin. And both Cian and Sheila attend the Alberta legislature regularly. It's a pretty easy place to get into. You just stop at security, show your ID, Bob's your uncle. I think there's a little metal detector you go through, but it's no big deal. And I mean, Cian Bexley has recently been to press conferences by Jason Kenney, the Premier. Like, it's not a big deal. There was a brief moment 4 years ago when Sheila Gunn-Reid was locked out of the legislature by an armed sheriff at the behest of Rachel Notley, but Notley blinked and backed down after national outrage. So Sheila's had access to the legislature for years, and now that Jason Kenney and the Conservatives are in office, it's not even a thing until this week. Cian went to a building that's part of the legislature precinct. It's called the Federal Building, but it's controlled and under the auspices of the province. He went into the building to go to a press conference he was invited to. So he went into the lobby. The security guard said, yeah, welcome. Go up to the press conference room. The NDP kicked him out. All right, I don't know if they have the authority to do so, but they did. And Cian left. He went back down to the lobby, which was fine. The security guard said, oh yeah, you can hang out down here. And then the New Democrat staff said to the sheriff, get him out. And the sheriff did. Is that how it works? Is that how it works with police? Just some political hack can tell a man with a gun to take his enemy out of a public building? I want to show you how that looks. Let's play that video from Cian.
I said, fine, I'll wait on the main floor of this building for members to go to question period. And the sheriff said that was fine. As I sat down there in the main area, they said I could be there and make some calls. It'd be totally legit.
It's the second floor that you're referring to, because I intend to.
Yeah, if you want to make phone calls and stuff from the lobby of the building, go for it.
Sure.
I don't care.
Well, that wasn't good enough for the Alberta NDP, so Jeremy Elias, the chief of staff for Rachel Notley, stalked me through this building, following me around until the sheriffs came to his aid. He had 2 members of the sheriff's department come and escort me off the property. I said, fine, I'll leave. Don't worry about it. I'm on my way out. And as I did, that wasn't even good enough for the sheriff's department, which apparently responds to the orders of Rachel Notley and the NDP. They pushed me, physically pushed me up the stairs. Watch this.
Oh, it's Jeremy. What do you know? So you do take orders from the Alberta NDP. Well, actually, I've been meaning to ask you for some time. Was it you that was with Notley when I got that photo with her outside of Hayden Block? Well, don't push me. Don't push me. I don't care what you have to say. Don't push me. Am I under arrest? If I'm under arrest, you can arrest me. You do not touch me if I'm not under arrest.
Trespassing right now.
I've been told to leave and I'm leaving. Do not. Was it you or him? Did you touch me or was it him? What's your name? Labucci? Was it you that touched me?
Yes.
It was you. Okay, perfect. And what's your name? What's your Constable Sergeant? Please explain to me. Why did you put your hands on me?
Because you were asked to.
Because the Alberta NDP asked you to? That is exactly what is happening here. And you know that's what happened.
No, I'm not sure what my camera caught, but you could certainly hear him admit that. Yeah, that was me who pushed you, Cian.
Was it you that touched me?
Yes.
It was you. Okay, perfect.
Now, I'm surprised he admitted that. Officers shouldn't be laying hands on anyone unless they're arresting someone. That is assault. And the NDP specifically, Jeremy Elias, had the sheriffs do that. In the meantime, Rebel News is applying for access to the press gallery here in Alberta. Our applications have been ignored for weeks, but we have our lawyers on it. Now, to solve this problem, even though I was there completely legally, even though I was speaking with members of the Legislative Assembly, and even though the sheriffs told me I could be there, we're still waiting on our application to join the press gallery. Catherine Grakowski is ignoring those applications over the course of weeks. Now, when I called my boss, Ezra Levant, to ask him what I should do next after the NDP threw me out of the legislature, he was surprised. He told me, I thought Albertans defenestrated the socialist NDP from the legislature and they didn't run the show. And I thought, well, yeah, Ezra, you're right. It's actually the Minister of Infrastructure, it turns out, that runs the show here. He actually leases out the space to the Speaker's office. So I figured I would ask him after he was off House duty. I waited outside of the legislature to speak with Prasad Panda, the Minister of Infrastructure, to ask him if he would fight for our journalistic accreditation in this building and if he would accredit the Independent Press Gallery, Candace Malcolm's new venture, a press gallery that will accredit anyone as long as they're not taking government funds. I waited and I actually spoke to Prasad. It was much more cordial than any interaction I've ever had with the NDP. We've been told by the Speaker's office that it's under your purview, actually, as Minister of Infrastructure. The press gallery operates at your pleasure, basically, because they take up your office space. I'm wondering if you would support the idea of actually allowing or forcing the press gallery to respond to our demands to join it.
I don't know. I had to catch up on that, but I would be open. I think it should be open for all points of view.
Now, just second question. I'm not sure if you're aware, the Independent Press Gallery was just created by Candace Malcolm. She's currently the president of it, and it's open to left-wing, right-wing folks, everyone who doesn't take government bailouts. That's the only stipulation outside of other general journalistic practices. Would you be open to allowing them specific access to these office spaces?
I understand it is self-regulating, and as far as Alberta is concerned, my personal opinion, I think we should respect the diversity of all of Alberta, and we should be open for different opinions. That's my view.
Would that include allowing the Independent Press Gallery office space and access to the legislature and the proceedings within it?
As I said, I'm open for it, but I had to look into that, and I know they're self-regulating, but from my point of view, based on what beliefs I have, having run for Wild Rose, I'm open for all points of view.
Now, I've been at the legislature for 2 days now. You might notice I changed my shirt. I've been on and off the phone with Ezra and our lawyers told me the bill that they have for us. Over the course of the past few months, they've been fighting quite a few fights for us to get us access to different legislatures and parliaments. The bill right now is $26,000, all to get access to this building and a few others. If you want to help us out, go to letusreport.com. If you go there, we'll be able to continue our fight for free speech and free journalism in Canada. I think we're on the edge. We might be in this building soon, but we need your help. Please go to letusreport.com.
Well, there you have it. There's a lot in there, isn't it? The first thing is that it's just like the bad old days. NDP political hacks directing men with guns to keep our journalists out of a public building. Sorry, we're not Iran, we're not, North Korea, we're not China, or unfortunately these days Hong Kong. We're just not. You saw what we did in Toronto at the City Hall the other day. When some thugs pushed us out, we went there back in force. We brought 7 bodyguards ourselves, and when the cop presented, we very calmly stated the law that we did nothing wrong and can't be given a trespass order to leave a public facility unless we had specifically done something wrong. If you're on someone's private property, they can kick you out for any reason or no reason. That's just the wonderful thing about private property. It's yours. You don't need a reason to keep someone on your private property. But public property, well, that's the thing, is it most certainly is public. And you can kick people out, but only if they're doing something that gives you grounds. And we studied the law in Toronto. If you are causing a disturbance, if you're fighting, if you're swearing, if you're drunk, and blah, 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 yeah, you can be kicked off public property, sure. But Keehan wasn't doing any of those things. He was peaceful and it had in fact complied with an earlier direction, even if that earlier direction was improper to move. What irks me even more so is that I'm not quite sure if it was a sheriff, a cop, or a security guard, I think it was a sheriff, which is a kind of police officer, physically pushed Keehan. Now, he didn't hurt him, but the definition of assault and battery does not require you to feel a certain level of pain before it kicks in. And the thing about police is they have certain powers under the law, but even powers greater than you or I have. But because of that, it's all the more important that they follow the law. Power plus control, not power that's out of control. And if these sheriffs put their hands on Keane in an unlawful way, while purporting to be doing so lawfully, that's a big problem. And that's something that may result in a civil suit or a police complaints commission action. We don't know yet. This happened in the past few days, and we've had our lawyers write to various authorities demanding an investigation and a remedy. But there's a lot of bad behavior going on there, and I don't want to ascribe it to Premier Jason Kenney or his government. I think that maybe they're operating under some old rules or under old understandings. Maybe that one sheriff felt a momentary pressure or peer pressure and he caved in to some New Democrat hack. But just because Keane wasn't physically roughed up as we were roughed up in Toronto City Hall doesn't mean we're not going to fight back just as hard. I grew up with an unvarnished support, affection, admiration, partisan loyalty to police. I just never met a cop in my whole life that I didn't like or that I didn't support. I just knew you see a cop, you see a good guy. That's how it was. I think that's true today mostly still, especially with beat cops. I think it's actually harder to be a cop now than ever before. But if cops are political, if cops break the law, those are the ones you got to weed out. And I'm not saying this guy that put his hands on Keane and shoved him out of there illegally is rotten to the core. I think he may have in the moment not known what to do, panicked, and did what some NDP boss said to him. I mean, remember those NDPers were bossing the cops around for 4 years, so maybe he's in a habit or in a rut. But this will not stand, and you know that we will do whatever it takes to fight back. We got this up on the website, letusreport.com. You probably saw that was mentioned in the video if you want to throw that on the page. It's we use that website a lot, letusreport.com, because so often we're not allowed to report. So you can see NDP send sheriffs to kick Keane out of the Alberta legislature. That's the top story there. But before that, we're in federal court battling Justin Trudeau. Trudeau censors. Keane was kicked off of Rideau Cottage. So there were really so many fights that we're in to let us report. Isn't that weird? We just want to go to a press conference, and now we have to fight for access, but we will do it. We will absolutely do it. Someone's got to do it. Let's take a look at some super chats. Julian Borges, $5. Familiar with Alfred Kinsey, father of the sexual revolution through junk incriminating data, duped a generation. Judith Reisman exposes him. Missed a chat, by the way. Oh, I'm sorry I missed a chat. I'm somewhat familiar with Alfred Kinsey, and I haven't looked into that matter in some years, though. Kane Enmark, $2. My poor Keane, I hate it. I hope you sue the cop. Well, we have lawyers on it. We fired off letters yesterday, and we will sue if we have to sue, but maybe there's some way we can fix this without litigation. I hope so. Taipei Sam, 300, I presume NT means New Taiwan dollars. The Super Chat show is midnight viewing in Asia. Great to have a drink and catch up with all the nonsense I'm not missing in Trudeau's Canada. Though I think some people in the chat room have had a few. Well, that's friendly. I like the fact that you're called Taipei Sam, and I tell you, let me reveal my intentions. It is my hope to have a rebel trip to Taiwan, just like we've had rebel trips to other countries, including ones where we've taken our super fans. I like Taiwan. I've been there myself. It's been a few years, but I'd like to come back, and I'd like to bring my friends with me. And I'd like to learn a lot of things about the country, ranging from how they're a democracy in the shadow of the world's worst dictatorship, how they knew better not to trust the World Health Organization and managed to keep their people safe, what they're doing on the defense side, what they're doing on the diplomatic side to become integrated with the world again. They've been cut off. They've been deplatformed. They're a country that's been deplatformed. They and Israel are probably the two countries in the world that have been the most deplatformed. Edward Kilegian, $2, thank you. Ricky Wright, $5. I think it's a disgrace the homeless camped out in front of City Hall help them. Tory knows if in different times he would have had them kicked off long ago. Well, I think the greatest contrast is between how these ruffians, when they went to John Tory's fancy condo, were immediately dispatched by police, whereas they're camped out in front of City Hall. He lets them stay forever. I think John Tory, like so many of these lazy leftist mayors, has one rule for you and one rule for him. Just like the mayor of Seattle was fine with that Chaz autonomous zone, but the moment they came to her house to protest, oh, she freaked out and panicked. She talks about abolishing the police, not when they come to her house, am I right? Lisa P., $2. Thank you, Ezra, for all you do. Rebel News, the only one acting. Yeah, in many cases, I'm afraid that's true. True North does good things too. David Anderson, $2. Just donated $150 to Let Us Report. Go to it, folks. Well, David, that is so friendly. You know, I want to tell you, that law firm, there, you can see all the work we're doing there. We just got an invoice for $26,000. You're thinking, what's that for? Well, we still have 2 lawsuits in Alberta that we're fighting against the provincial government that were started under Rachel Notley, but that the Red Tory Doug Schweitzer, the Justice Minister, I think he's an anti-Kenny activist. I think he's an agitator. I have no idea why an untrustworthy man like him would be put in an important position like Justice Minister. He is still fomenting against us. He's fighting us in court. In fact, he sent us a threat letter. I haven't even published it yet, saying he's going to bring 5 expert witnesses saying that we should be censored and our billboards should be illegal. You know what? I should do a show on that. I'm just so far behind. Doug Schweitzer has threatened to spend $1 million to break the back of Rebel News. That's a fact. I'll prove it to you. I have it in writing from him, from his office. Miss Chat from Julian Borges, $2. Is China still communist? How are they hurting Hong Kong? Well, they're not communist in terms of the economic system. They're more crony capitalist now. But they're communist in other effects, such as violence, politicization of the judiciary and the police. And how are they hurting Hong Kong? Well, they recently passed a series of security laws that bring Chinese-style bully tactics to Hong Kong, which until now had British-style rule of law. When China took back Hong Kong 20 plus years ago, what was it, 23 years ago, I think? The phrase was one country, 2 systems. So sure, Hong Kong would be part of China, but it could keep its freedom, its property rights, its sanctity of contract, its independent courts, its civil liberties, its freedom of speech. That's over now, and they've started arresting people even for singing songs that aren't lawful, for having flags that aren't lawful. It truly is becoming as authoritarian as China proper. Proud Boy 7 $5. If you already knew that machine guns have been banned for 60 years, then you're the kind of man we're looking for. Proud Boys Edmonton. Yeah, oh, I mean, there's, if you just ask a Liberal MP to tell you what defines an assault rifle and get ready for the comedy to roll. What kind of guns should we ban that are not banned yet in Canada? Get ready for the comedy. They don't know what they're talking about. Vito Anthony D, $5, said $250,000 for Margaret Trudeau because her speeches are so riveting, they just can't help but throw money at her. So sleazy, isn't it? Oh, you're exactly right. It's money laundering. I can assure you that the Trudeau family would not be able to monetize their family name were it not for Justin Trudeau being Prime Minister. It's just like Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, who was paid, was it $60,000 or $80,000 a month to be on the board of a Ukrainian energy company? You think Hunter Biden knows anything about Ukrainian energy? No, it was a way of getting to Joe Biden, who was then Vice President. Yeah, no one would pay $250,000 to hear Margaret Trudeau babble. It just doesn't happen. But if Justin Trudeau knows you're taking care of his mom, he'll take care of you. And that's the kind of I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine that we've seen. I see Taipei Sam in the regular comment says the Taiwan trip will be great in 2021 once the Wuhan flu dies down. I think you're exactly right. All right, it's 12:49. I hope you don't mind me showing all these videos. I like that Marlon Schmidt video. I sort of messed up the preamble. I just wanted to tell you that I bought his name, marlonschmidt.com. The Edmonton Book Event, hope to see you there. Kean, that really makes me mad, and we haven't done enough work on that yet. But I want to tell you that Vancouver's police they've got their priorities straight. I mean, you might say, boy, there's a lot of fentanyl and other opioid drugs being smuggled into Vancouver. You know that the death toll in British Columbia from opioids is higher than the death toll from the pandemic. That's a fact. You might say, well, there's gang crime there. You might say, oh, there's money laundering. A lot of Chinese communists launder their money through real estate and even casinos in Vancouver. You might think that the Vancouver police have extremely pressing things that have to do with public safety and the public interest. Well, if so, my friends, you would be dead wrong. Because look at this amazing story. Suspect identified after Pride crosswalk defaced outside West Vancouver Police Station. Police unveiled the crosswalk last week at the intersection of 16th Street and Esquimalt Avenue. Oh my God, there's a tire track on the road, people. A tire track on the road. Police unveiled the crosswalk last week at the intersection of, so police have an actual, so I wonder if police care about this because the police officer who painted this told his buddy to investigate. I wonder if anyone else were to be so crazy if the police would follow this. Let's read a little bit. Police in West Vancouver say they've identified a suspect after a driver defaced the police department's newly unveiled Pride crosswalk. Defaced it? You mean by driving on it? Is that what we're calling defacing it? On Wednesday, police said staff inside the station heard a loud and sustained tire squealing. Oh my God, not loud and sustained. Officers discovered the tire marks across part of the crosswalk. The car, which appeared to have two occupants, sped away and hasn't been found. This is very upsetting. Constable Kevin Goodmurphy said it in a release. It's very upsetting. For whatever reason, this person's just leaving a gesture of hate on a crosswalk. It stands for the exact opposite. I need a moment. Can you imagine this man claims to serve and protect? Police unveiled the crosswalk last week. They're busy doing that, folks. Investigators have since found video surveillance of the incident. Oh, good. How many men are working on this case? Anyone with information. Hey, go up to the top. I thought they said they identified him. So they got the vehicle. Is there any more? Is the story done or does it go on? It's done. Okay, go up to the headline again. Suspect identified. I didn't think they identified him. Suspect identified. We just read the whole story. There's no more words, right? There's no more words. So they just say, so they have a picture of the car, scroll down to the car. That looks like a bit of a sporty car. What's that? Is that a Camaro or something? What's that? I don't even know. Ford Mustang. Sorry, I should have known that. Forgive me. I know that's a Mustang. I'm not that dumb. I just forgot. I'm shocked that a Ford Mustang squealed its tires. Must be a criminal. So how many cops do we have on the story? And they put out a press release. So we got the cops who are busy making the rainbow crosswalk. We the cops who was sad. The cop who put out a press release. The cops who were looking through surveillance material. And the cops who were hunting for the suspect. I think that this is a major crime. I think that this is probably the largest investigation in the Lower Mainland. And I'm just deeply embarrassed. And this is what I said earlier. I mean, when I grew up, there was never a time that I took anyone's side other than the cops, other than watching Dukes of Hazzard. But that was a fictitious TV show. I'm just deeply embarrassed for the West Vancouver police. And, you know, we're all trying to support the police. We're all trying to give them moral support in these challenging times when they're being roughed up. But what we've just discussed there for 5 minutes is not police work. That's woke BS. Taipei Sam, 30 new Taiwan dollars. Plot twist, the suspect's name is Mohammed. If that is true, I think this story will be thrown down the memory hole because it is true that Islam is not the friendliest of faiths towards homosexuality. Mary Nielsen, $7. I'm about to study law to fight the good fight you're fighting. I thank you for everything you do at Rebel News. Well, Mary, that's very nice of you to say. I think studying the law is good because so much of the world is governed by law. There are more laws than sense, I'm afraid. And if you want to have a life in public sphere, in public policy, having a law degree is useful. It's also a way to earn a living, too. Law schools are becoming increasingly woke and politically correct. It's hard to maintain your own bearings. Like going to any university, they try and brainwash you as much as teach you, so I wish you luck in that whole process. It's 12:54, so we're almost out of time. I want to show something I haven't dealt with in a show properly, but you know, Justin Trudeau's being self-hiding in his house for about 4 months, emerging only to take a knee on Parliament Hill. And I still wonder, who are you taking a knee for or against? You're the man. You're the boss man. You control a lot of things. You control the prisons. You control some police, the RCMP. You control some courts, some prosecutors. Who are you taking in? You're the Prime Minister? Are you protesting against yourself? I don't know. I don't know what that was about. But Justin Trudeau's been self-hiding for about 4 months. No doctor's orders to self-hide, none of that. I think he just likes staying at home, playing Nintendo, watching some Netflix, smoking some legal marijuana. His wife's not there. He's estranged from his wife. They've been, I think the term would be legally separated. I don't know if they regard it as that, but they haven't lived together in months. I don't know what he's doing in that house all day or what visitors he has. But he doesn't like to leave because there's too much work out there. I think he's been checked out for months. He's got the vacation beard on. But you would think that he would go down to the United States at the invitation of Donald Trump to sign the new version of NAFTA. I think it's called the USMCA, US-Mexico-Canada Agreement. Here, take a look at this. Take a look. Here's a clip we have.
Between the United States and Mexico has never been closer than it is right now. We're cherished friends, partners, and neighbors. Our cooperation is founded on mutual trust and mutual respect between the two of us and between our two countries. And we honor the great dignity of both nations. Today we celebrate the historic victory we achieved together just days ago when NAFTA was officially terminated and replaced with a brand new, beautiful USMCA. This is truly a proud moment in history for both of our nations, Mexico and the United States. We pledge the close and continued friendship between the United States and Mexico, and we accelerate our progress toward an even greater tomorrow. That's what's happening. With a prospering region, a flourishing hemisphere, and two sovereign nations thriving, growing, and excelling side by side, working together, and that's what we've been doing. And it's an honor to have you with us.
So obviously Donald Trump is pretty proud of that moment. I recall that it was, I think, the very first day of Trump's presidency, like hours after he was inaugurated, he ripped up the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He thought it was a bad trade deal. He thought it was so important, it was a first day issue for him. And he brought in all the trade union leaders to show him that. He was basically saying, we're going to bring the jobs home, the factories home. Trade union leaders couldn't believe it. So redoing NAFTA, the USMCA, was very important to Donald Trump. And as you can see, they had this luxurious video. And the boss of Mexico came up for it. But Trudeau refused to go down. He refused. Was he busy? He's got something he's got to do around the house, maybe. He's got to watch new episode, something on Netflix. You're turning down an invitation from the President of the United States. All right. You went to Costa Rica for 17 days. You just did a tour of Africa trying to get all sorts of votes for your failed UN Security Council bid. There's no tyrant you won't give foreign aid to. You won't go down at the invitation for a happy event with the president of our greatest allied trading partner, closest neighbor. You washing your hair that day or something? No reasonable explanation given. That's okay. Trump managed on his own with the president of Mexico. But I can't help but think what that's going to cost all of us Not that Trump will be particularly vengeful about Canada. I think one of the luckiest things for Canadians is that Trump is so busy with other things that he doesn't think too much about Canada. He's busy with China. He's busy with Iran. He's busy with North Korea. He's busy with Russia. He's busy with Hong Kong. There's so many things he's busy with. He's busy with his domestic challenges. Thank God Donald Trump doesn't think about Canada as much as we think about him. I showed you like the top 4 books in Canada are anti-Trump books. We're obsessed by him. He barely remembers us, but I think he noted Trudeau's unexcused absence this week. And you know, there are a few things we could use the friendship of the American president for. The two Michaels, Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig, have been kidnapped, 18 months ago now, being held in abominable conditions in China. I know for a fact that Donald Trump has repatriated, 40 Americans who were in prisons or held hostage overseas. It's obviously a very high priority for Trump to bring Americans home. He actually also brought home the remains of American servicemen who were in, I think, Korea, maybe even Vietnam. I'd have to refresh my memory. So for some reason, and I think it's a good thing, I don't know what the particular motivation is, whether it's patriotic or symbolic, or if there's a personal reason, or if it's just part of his ideology, Donald Trump has put a very high premium on bringing back Americans. And by the way, it was Trump who brought back that Taliban sympathizer, Joshua Boyle, that damn fool who took his pregnant wife to Afghanistan to hook up with the Taliban, and they took him prisoner and raped her. It was Trump who freed that guy and brought him home to us. And here's a point on that. If Donald Trump can free Joshua Boyle and bring him home to Canada, a terrorist sympathizer, maybe Donald Trump could help bring home the two Michaels. It would mean spending a fair bit of political capital. Trump is fighting with China very hard for his own interests. So to get him to do an errand for us is hard. Not impossible, because of course we did an errand for him, arresting Meng Wanzhou, the CFO of Huawei, which was the precursor to this. So I think Trudeau could say, look, buddy, we're taking some pain because we're doing the right thing by extraditing Meng Wanzhou. Can you help us out here and get our two guys back? It means a lot to us, thanks. You know, you went down there, you have a face-to-face, you don't embarrass him, you don't insult him. You say, look, boss. You don't say boss because you're a self-respecting prime minister. You say, look, friend, look, ally, look, Mr. President. You say, Mr. President. Mr. President, we're hurting. And it's because we're such strong allies with you that China's hurting us. They're doing it to get to you. And we haven't been able to get our guys back home. Can you help? And you just say that. You don't think the President of the United States, when he hears that, is going to help? I think he might. And maybe you throw him a bone on something else too. And that's how diplomacy works. It's log rolling. It's I'll do you a favor, you do us a favor. And right now we need a favor. And I don't know, maybe he would say no. Maybe he'd say, Justin, you were mean to me here. I don't know. I find that Trump is quick to anger, but also quick to forgive. I'll never forget, he was in a crazy war of words with the New York Times and their owner, a Mexican billionaire named Carlos Slim. And then Carlos Slim flies up to America, has a luxury dinner with Trump. Trump tweets a photo of it, calls him my friend or something like that. Trump loves to fight, but if you just bend the knee for 1 second, he'll say, okay, yeah, let's kiss and make up. Why are we even fighting? He's actually done that with Mexico about 20 times. We missed that opportunity. I think if Justin Trudeau could have left, put the bong down, maybe even shaved, put on a clean suit that doesn't smell like weed, go to the airport. It's a 75-minute flight to DC. Go there, shake some hands, say hi to the Mexican president, 10-minute meeting with Trump, come straight back home. It's like 4 hours. 5 hours. Why didn't he do that? Laziness, anti-American hostility, personal hatred for Trump. If he would have done that, swallowed his pride, which is part of diplomacy. You swallow your pride sometimes when you want a favor. It's part of life, frankly. He didn't. I believe that his stubbornness there when Trump wanted a moment, his refusal to give Trump that little moment, that little diplomatic moment, that little PR moment that we just saw that video of. I believe that is why Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig are in prison today. I believe that he would have asked Trump for the favor in a nice way. He could have got it, and those men would be coming home. He's lazy and entitled, Justin Trudeau. All right, I'm going to whip through the super chats, then I got to go. Here's a message held for review. Fiona Harrison. Oh, scroll down to Dr. FYE. $10. Aside from Kinsey, I can't believe the abuse John Money got away with in regards to the Reimer brothers here in Canada. I think his work is still being cited. Okay, you're saying things of which I'm unaware, so I'll look into that. Linda McDonald, $25 concerning JT's own lottery system, family charity, won by his own family members, taxpayers funded, helps to be PM. If you steal a pop, you go to jail. Steal it from Canadian taxpayers, you get elected. Yeah, I mean, I think Jody Wilson-Raybould had his number pretty early on, don't you think? Jane Philpott too. Kelly Wallace, $5, praying you and your brilliant, talented team stay blessed to continue your powerful work for good, Ezra. Thank you very much. Love the team. It's a team effort. You really get to know that when you work in the TV business. For every person on camera, there's two people behind the scenes. Did you know that? Mike Jones, $2. Shout out to Watch with Wayne on YouTube. All right, I don't know what that is, but I'll take a look. Proud Boys Edmonton, protecting people like Ezra's right to speak freely since 2016. Proud Boys Edmonton. Well, thank you very much for that. Can I Play with Madness? $5. Thank you, Rebel, for fighting for us patriots. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. When we fight for our freedom of the press, hopefully we set a legal precedent for everyone's freedom of the press. When we take on an overweening sheriff, hopefully we send a message to that sheriff to not take on other reporters too. It's a lonely battle, and it should not be. We should have allies. But I guess we do have allies. We've got you. My friends, it's 1:06. I've gone on a little long. Thank you for your help today. If you want to help us out, go to letusreport.com. I saw that David already did. We actually do need the help. I got to pay those lawyers, not just for helping Key now, but I owe them $26,000. They sent me the invoices. It's legit. We haven't paid them in months, and they've been doing some work. We got to pay the lawyers. So we owe them $26,000. You can see that at letusreport.com. Help out if you can. All right. I'd like to end with a dog video. I have not seen these videos in advance. They are curated by Justin, our producer-editor. So I'll say goodbye to you now. I find that these dog videos tend to put me in a better mood, maybe 8% happier, sometimes 22% happier. I think once it made me 38% happier. Let's see how today's does. See you later, guys.
Pero
That's 26%.